It's time for your daily dose of Cyberpunk 2077 news. Today we're going to be talking about this headline right here. A game developer has explained the creepy children in Cyberpunk 2077 and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And we're going to go over this one and the original post right here. So we've got a lot to talk about with that one. Plus, we're going to be talking about a secret in Cyberpunk 2077 related to that old trailer. Remember the original trailer featuring Melissa Rory? We're going to talk about how you can actually find her in Cyberpunk 2077 and who she actually is. Some really cool details there, so stay tuned. Plus, yep, your top comments. But let's dive into this. Hey everyone, what's happening? Open World Games here. Hope you're doing good today. And yeah, let's do this. More news about Cyberpunk 2077. So let's dive into the article right here from PlayStationLifestyle.net. They go on to say the following: Cyberpunk 2077 and Assassin's Creed Valhalla feature some really creepy child models. As evidence in the images above and below, players have been posting close-ups of the NPCs from both games on social media, wondering if children characters are difficult to make or if there's another reason behind this. You can see some of the faces here. And you can see right here, this is from Assassin's Creed Valhalla. These children look like they're going to go full-blown psycho or something, or it's like from a horror film. But anyway, it says, in response to a viral Reddit thread, user Arand, a game developer who works closely with character models, confirmed that the children are indeed difficult to recreate realistically, and studios sometimes try to scale down adult models to minimize production costs. I kid you not. Let's go to the original post right here. This has almost like 30,000 upvotes on Reddit, and you can see who it comes from right here. Alios, I think it is. But you can see how weird the children models look in Cyberpunk 2077. It definitely looks like they have scaled down like a full-blown adult male and female characters here to fit a, child's, I guess, representation here. They just plopped a child's head on an adult body that's shrunken down. That's what it looks like. But here, let's get into what the developer has to say here. It says, I'm a game developer. My title is a rigger, so I work with characters. I don't make the model, but I work closely with character modelers, and children are usually one of the hardest characters to make them look right. The proportion of a child is different than an adult. They usually have a bigger head ratio to body than the adult, and it's hard to replicate without looking goofy. It's even more difficult when you try to replicate a specific age, because a child body changes so much to so little time when they grow, And because of their different proportions, it's often would mean that they have a unique rig and that they can't just reuse adult animations. They could with retargeting, but it won't look right. This all adds to the cost in production pipeline, because they would need a unique model with unique rig and their own animation set. In a big open world game, there are usually rig templates that every character would need to fit on, so that they don't need to animate thousands of characters, which is why they will often just scale an adult to be able to reuse their whole animation set at very little production cost. That's actually super interesting, to be honest with you guys. I never even thought about that with a lot of these open world games. I remember Fable 2 in the Fable series did an excellent job though with their entire NPC set, including children or what have you, including like even the animal life. He goes on to say this: you have to make a child character model from scratch to make them look right. You can't just rescale an adult. It's immediately apparent if they just scaled an adult to child height when I receive a child model to rig. Unfortunately, you have a big open world game like Assassin's Creed series. This is often what they do because they don't have the time to create a big enough variety of kids models for their crowds. So there you have the answer as to why some of these child character models are so weird looking in some of these open world games. So that's definitely interesting for sure. Now there are some interesting replies here related to this. I think we'll get into those right now. So let's dive into some of these. There's one in particular I wanted to highlight. Let's keep going. It says from Topstrew, says, I know nothing about this, but could they create some kind of child template of a generic age, say 8, and use that between projects? And then DJ says, this is effectively what studios that have to tackle this issue of child characters are doing. One thing you might notice about games with kids, especially open world games, is that they're all the same age. The more unique models you need to create and rig, the less time and money can be spent providing more support for each. It's not just the rigging. Those characters also need their own complete set of animations, and these need to be customized. If we adapt the adult animation set, there will be telltale signs, and not only does this grow production costs, but now you also have to fit all these unique rigs and animations into limited RAM. That's another thing that you also have to consider, is how much RAM and computer processing this is going to be taking up as well. So I found that very interesting. But they go on to say this isn't just limited to kids either. I worked on one of the biggest games ever released with an absurdly large budget and development time, and yet all the female player characters are just using the same rig that the male characters are and the same animations. It's painfully obvious, at least to me, though it hasn't slowed the game in the slightest. Now, let's keep going, because there is a reply here I want to dig for. It is referencing Horizon Zero Dawn and actually how they handled Aloy, her character. And I thought that was absolutely a really great reply. Here it is. It goes on to say this: I thought Horizon Zero Dawn did a great job with the young Aloy at the beginning of the game. She would do this thing when going upstairs, when sometimes she would brace herself with one hand when scampering up. It really seemed like the way a real kid would be. And that is so true. I remember Horizon Zero Dawn handled that so well. But you got to consider, again, that they weren't scaling that model throughout an entire open world game with thousands and thousands of similar type character models, that they could really focus in on this main character. So that's going to be the difference right there between, like, say, a main character protagonist like Aloy versus entire crowds in that regard. But yeah, let's keep going into the news right now. Now, you guys know I promised you I would keep reporting on Cyberpunk 2077 mods, and the one that I was most curious about was this one right here. Cyberpunk gets a third-person PC mod. It is out right now on PC. This is from IGN. It says, PC players can now enjoy Cyberpunk in third person thanks to a savvy modder. To a degree, you can enjoy it. I've seen the footage. Let me just say, it's pretty funky. It says, as reported by PC Gamer, a third-person perspective mod for Cyberpunk 2077 was uploaded to Nexus Mods over the weekend. The JBTPP mod, work in progress, third-person mod, is very much a work in progress. Definitely. Like, again, I've seen the footage, and it's pretty funky. Now, they say, in our own brief test, the player model looks odd in motion, with legs and arms moving unnaturally to account for the intended first-person view. You can probably expect some more general bugs, too. So, yeah. You can find the download link if you want to check it out, try it for yourself, in the description below. I will provide that for you, as well as sources to all these articles as well. So go for it, check it out for yourself, but hopefully they keep progressing this mod. The biggest problem that I've noticed is when you're using weapons, it just looks wrong. It's definitely not 100% there just yet, but it does get me excited for the future of mods. And honestly, I wouldn't mind to see an official update for third-person view for Cyberpunk 2077 down the road. That would be really badass. Now, we've got something really cool to show you right here. Check this out. This is Melissa Rory. She has been discovered in Cyberpunk 2077. As you can see here, it says, holy crap, it's really her, the girl, excuse me, from the first Cyberpunk trailer. You can find her with Max Tack in a side mission. Fun fact, when you talk to her, you can ask her about her Mantis blades. She says she got them in 2069. That's 7 years ago in Cyberpunk lore. The first trailer was released January 10th, 2013. So this is a really cool find. I'll try to find a link in the description below, provide that for you as to how you can actually go about finding her. But this is a really cool discovery for sure, because she was basically the cover character for Cyberpunk 2077 for a very long time. Then they began changing things up, and I noticed that a lot of the artwork became more colorful. You could just see here from this footage that I recorded how colorful the game actually became. I think that was kind of like a mission statement from the designer's perspective. They were like, you know what, we got to add more color into this game for sure. Guess what time it is? It's time for your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. It could end up right here in the video. Let's do this. All right, first top comment comes from Evil701, who says, instead of a cutscene of Jackie and V, how they became good friends, they should give us a couple of missions to care about him more. Yeah, this was one of my biggest problems with the story, is how quickly they get rid of Jackie. I was like totally bummed by this with Cyberpunk 2077, and I think that they definitely should have done more with that. With the Jackie character, because I felt like it would have been really cool to have him as a companion throughout the entire experience. All right, Cole says this, that this sounds more like someone pretending to be a dev versus a real dev. And this is a reply to this video right here that I did about how Cyberpunk, how CD Projekt Red, is planning a massive comeback this June 2021, according to an insider. And of course, I say anything that's like a supposed insider or an anonymous source, take with a grain of salt. It's going to be a rumor, but to me, it sounds like it's going to be accurate just because of the history of gaming with No Man's Sky, and many other games have tried to basically rework themselves. Even Anthem is going for the Anthem 2.0 Definitive Edition. So yeah, I expect Cyberpunk to follow that same trend and try to rework things as well. All right, let's highlight some more comments here as well. Let's see. Black Panther for the win says, life paths need to have more significant impact on the story and the world. Having a 6-month jump leading to everyone defaulting to Street Kid was a pretty poor choice. I totally agree. Like, they really advertised the crap out of these life paths like they were going to make the entire difference of the game. And I thought for sure each life path was going to get their very own endings and things like that, considering this game had been in development for so long, but that just was not the case for sure. All right, check this out. Swifty Unknown says, execs need to keep to themselves and stop telling devs what to make and how fast to make it. Yeah, you know, and these execs also need to get more control over their investors. But once you start pushing a game into the 8-year development territory, in this case, you know, realistically, it was announced, conceptualized 8 years ago, and then they probably started working on it, you know, a total of 5 years, maybe, you know, and then the last 2 years, from what I understand, is when the game really took shape to what it is now, with Johnny Silverhand being one of the key focal points of the game. But yeah, it just sounds like it ended up being this whole mess, to be honest with you, how the game was actually developed. And it kind of reminds me of the story of Anthem, to be blunt, with how that one was developed. First of all, they could walk in the world of Anthem, and then they suddenly added jump packing, and then the team that was creating the world was like, hey, yo, we cannot have these jetpacks in the game because the world that we've created was for walking, and then they had to expand it quickly, like rapidly. So it kind of reminds me of that in a way with what has happened with Cyberpunk 2077's development. But thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for all the comments, love and support on the videos. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for more Cyberpunk 2077 news, and I'm going to be covering other open world games on the channel, but primarily focus on Cyberpunk 2077 going forward. But some really cool stuff happening. But thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time. Take care.